Welcome to Real Estate in the Tri-State, where we talk about all things buying, selling, and investing in the Dubuque area. Featuring experienced locals giving you their real estate insight. My name is Abby Rottler, and here is your host, my husband, Rob Rottler.
Welcome back to episode number 18 of Real Estate in the Tri-State. Before we get started and I introduce the guest, I just want to give a quick reminder to you listeners, if you're getting any value from the show, please subscribe to the show. It's really helpful. Just like YouTube, there's an algorithm. The more subscribers we have, the more people will get a chance to listen. And it is very much appreciated and helpful. So smash the like button or subscribe. Now, getting to episode number 18 guest, who is an absolute legend, grew up in small town Iowa, Carroll, Iowa. He was actually born in Honolulu, Hawaii. After high school, he went to UNI, and ever since college, he has worked at Cottingham & Butler here in town. He is currently a vice president of the transportation group at Cottingham & Butler, and at a young age has established himself as one of the most successful salesmen in Cottingham & Butler's 125-year history. An absolute beast in all areas of life, and a pleasure to have on the show the great and powerful Cris Houlihan. Cris, thanks for being on, man.
Rob, really appreciate it. Honored to be here. Again, using the term legend and powerful. I don't know about that, but super happy to be here with you today. So.
Absolutely. And we are, listeners, we are sipping on Corona Hard Seltzer. If you've never tried it, it's outstanding. I currently have mango, and Cris has a little cherry. Cheers. It's outstanding. We're going to have a little fun here in the studio today. So, Cris, before we get into some real estate stuff, can you just tell us a bit about yourself so we can get to know you better?
Yeah, of course. And before we get started, thank you for the hospitality and the beers and everything. Appreciate that. And the nice touch of the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, which I have not read yet. It's been on my list for a long time. So now I've got the perfect excuse to read it. So thank you again. I won't spend a ton of time on the background of me, but my dad sold Kirby vacuums back in the day, these $1,000 plus vacuums. And he met my 4'10" mom out in Honolulu, and they got married and had me out there, and he was selling vacuums door to door, so sales kind of tracks all the way back to, my dad, and I think even his dad before that. And he brought us from Hawaii to Florida, where they were doing the same thing, selling Kirby's, and then from Florida to Australia. And we were there for apparently not too long, like 6 months, and they didn't have the appropriate paperwork, so we got kindly asked to leave and went back to Florida for a short stint and ended up going back to Carroll, where my dad grew up, and his mom was there, and moved there and got a job and grew up there and went to school, and then went to the University of Northern Iowa, where I got involved with sales through an organization called Pi Sigma Epsilon. It's a student co-fraternity, business fraternity. And through that, got involved with sales competitions and competed and did pretty well in those. Thankfully, because I found that to be something I absolutely enjoy and love. Mm-hmm. And through that organization, got exposed to Cottingham & Butler. They were one of Pi Sigma Epsilon's sponsors throughout the year. So they would come and speak a couple times a year, and went up and introduced myself and did the interview process, and got an internship, my sophomore year. So did a summer internship my sophomore year, and then a summer internship my junior year, and then one kind of part-time internship my last semester of college at UNI, and then came on full-time in the summer of 2013. So the rest after that is history, I would say. I've got a beautiful wife named Kaylee, and we've got 2 little girls, 1 2 and 1 5. The oldest is Evelyn, and the youngest is Mila. Crazy little kids, keeps us on our toes.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got a yellow lab named Lila. But no, like I said, I'm a normal guy, work as hard as I can, and Christian man, man of faith.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal to me as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We're going to dive into more of you're huge into like habits and routines and philosophies, and can't wait to get to all that stuff. I think it's very valuable to anyone who's listening. Going back, I was curious, you talk about this sale, you got into sales competitions. What were those like? Because like I'm in sales. I'm technically in sales right now, real estate agent. I'm selling houses, right? But I really feel like, I don't know. I really feel like I spend a majority of my time learning how real estate works and about houses and real estate investing and some of these other things. I don't really take a ton of time to really think about my sales processes, I guess. I don't know. Were you studying those things? How did those sales competitions go? How did you prepare for them? What did you learn?
Yeah, I think a lot of people honestly are afraid of sales, and sales gets a bad rap a lot of times, unfortunately. But I love it, and I think it's an art. And the way that I was taught sales was through these sales competitions, basically, where we learned the exact process. And so these sales competitions, for example, all the competitors would get the same scenario. So, for example, we would do Hormel Foods would be the business, and the topic or the scenario would be, hey, it's the Super Bowl weekend coming up for this grocery store, and you have to go in and sell why your Hormel meats should get more shelf space than the other competitors out there.
Wow.
So anyways, they draw up this whole scenario and give you all the facts and details and what's going on. And then from there, you basically get to prepare, and you go into the day of the competition, and you go into a room kind of like you and I are sitting in right now.
Yeah.
And there's judges either in the same room or they're watching you from camera. And you basically have a bunch of different categories that you get scored on. So your introduction, right? How well did you build rapport? And then you go into questions, asking questions, trying to uncover pain. And then you maybe go into, the transition into your sales pitch. And then you go into the closing. All of this thing, there's all these different categories and points associated with it. And that's kind of how you get scored. And that's how they base everything. And what it did for me was it created a foundation where I could go master this process. And as an intern, having that under my belt and understanding how the process worked for sales, at least the strategies that I was studying, gave me a leg up in my internships. And I think that was a huge reason of why I was able to set as many meetings as I did as a sales intern, both summers, with all of that knowledge and data that I acquired through these competitions. So it was fantastic. It was one of the best experiences that I've ever had. And I loved it so much that I created the University of Northern Iowa's first sales competition.
Yes.
So I brought that same model to UNI, and got a ton of participation from the students and brought in sponsors and got a lot of these students exposed to really good organizations.
Dang, that was while you were in college?
Yeah. It was my senior year. Created this project to bring this to UNI. And,
damn.
I loved it. Like, to my knowledge, it's still going on today. So
that's big. Leaving a legacy, baby.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it, man.
I really like what you talked about. One thing that you said there, uncovering pain. I thought that was really good because that's a huge part of real estate too. Like, oh, you had another kid, you don't have enough room in your house. Like, just listening for those types of things. Like when I'm talking with people that I know in town, if they have another kid, they don't have room for the kid in their house. That's a pain point for them. Mm-hmm. And like, if I can identify that pain point and know where to go from that, there's a chance that they might, benefit from buying a house and selling the one they're currently in. So I might need to dive in and show them like, hey, you could sell your house right now and you could make X amount of profit, even after paying all your fees and closing costs or whatever. Mm-hmm. You make X amount of profit. You could roll that into your next house. You could afford a way bigger, nicer house with just what you're living with right now because you've lived in it for 10 years. You got all this equity. You can roll into something else. So I really like how you talk about some of these transitions and your sales process. And it's like an art. Like you you probably still work on it all the time.
Well, I mean, you hear people say, "Oh, I can never be in sales," and in my opinion, the reality is everything is sales.
Yeah,
everything,
so much,
everything. Me talking to you about this podcast, there was a bit of sales in that. I mean, you talking to anybody, there's some sales that goes into it. Talking to your spouse, talking to your friends. I mean, there's some way you can tie in sales, and it sucks that it gets such a bad rap because it's a great career and it's a great way to live, in my opinion. And I love it, So the uncovering pain is a big piece, and what they always say is, it should be an 80-20 rule. You should be listening 80% of the time, or asking good questions and not puking on everybody. And a lot of young salespeople in whatever industry that you're in get sucked into puking on people and just trying to sell your way, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't usually work very well, but you got to learn that, and it is an art, and it's something that can, that saw can be sharpened, basically. So that's key, going from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Like the puking on, and I study it too. I study like how I can be better in sales. I read a lot of books on it. I listen to podcasts, and I'm trying to sharpen the saw constantly. And there's like a dichotomy there of like being a good listener and also like showing that you have some value to give. But I really think the listening comes first. Like if somebody really feels like they're being listened to, I feel like you got a way better chance of finding a solution for them that's going to work, and that's sales. So
everybody has their own style. And I think for me, there's some statistics out there. Most salespeople give up after, 4 or 5 tries.
Yeah.
So I had an example this year, actually. I closed a deal that I've been working on since I was an intern, basically.
Jeez.
So from like 2011 to 2018, I counted it. I left this guy or emailed him, I think like 87 times.
Jeez.
Like I counted it in Salesforce. That's how many times it was. And one time I went in there and I just stopped in because I'm like, screw it. I got nothing to lose, right? I'm just going to go in and see if he'll see me. Well, I went in and she's like, who are you here to see? I'm like, this guy. And she's like, goes in there, talks to him. She's like, yeah, he's not interested. You can leave. And I'm like, great. So I waited another 3 months and I called him out to voicemail and said, hey, listen, I'm going to be there on Thursday. I'm going to swing into your office around 11. Just letting you know, I'm going to do it. So I go in and she's like, who are you here to see? And I'm like, I tell her. And she goes in there and she goes, yeah, you can go back and see him. I go, holy shit, heart starts palpitating. I'm freaking out, right? I'm like, oh my God, I did not expect I'm actually going to get to see this dude. And I walk in there. First off, for those of you who aren't watching the video right now, I'm like 5'6", okay? This dude is like 6'6".
Oof.
Okay?
Jeez.
I walk in there. I'm looking up at him, and he stands up. And he goes, Cris Houlihan, you are one persistent son of a bitch.
Yes.
Take a seat. So this is in like 2018. And we end up having a great meeting and go to lunch. It was awesome. Like, it literally didn't talk to this guy for like 6 or 7 years, and we have a great meeting, go to lunch. And then for the next year, he ghosted me again. Like, wouldn't answer any of my calls and everything. I got him again, finally. And then a few months later, we ended up writing his business. He was with the same insurance company for like 30 years. Okay. So what he told me was, he's just like, it never failed. Every month or two, I'd have a voicemail from you, and you just would not stop showing up. And I think that's half the battle, is you have to keep showing up, because something's going to change. In whatever industry you're in, there's going to be a change of circumstance, whether the person that they've been doing business with dies or retires or something. That could be something. Maybe the deal that they had goes away or it changes. If you don't show up, somebody else will, and you're going to miss out on that opportunity. And they don't come around super often. So you got to be consistent and persistent. And I think that's one of the main reasons of why I have success, is I don't know anybody more persistent than me. And I don't take no as just no. It's just no for now.
No for now.
It's no for now. And people appreciate that. People love persistency because they see that most people give up right away. Mm-hmm. And if you're respectful, if you do it the right way, people are going to see that you hustle and that you're hungry and that you're willing to do whatever it takes. And at some point, they're just going to want you to win because they like you and you mesh well and they know that you're willing to put it all on the line and go the extra 10 miles. You know, for you, Rob, it's more like freaking 70 miles, you psycho.
Dude, that is a badass story about this guy. 87 follow-ups. That is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love how, like, you sat down with that guy that day. You finally were able to meet with him. And he probably knew so much about you before you even met him. Before you even sat down, he knew that you were coming by and that you were consistent, and like if he needed something from you, like you were going to get it done. Mm-hmm. Like he didn't have to question whether or not you were like someone with good character or integrity. Like you're showing up all consistently for years and years and years. And who doesn't want that in their insurance guy? Like everyone wants that.
Right.
So like before you even meet the guy, he's got this perception of you, like of being like top notch.
Well, and I think the other piece to it, Rob, is especially as a young salesperson, depending on what industry you're in, you're dealing with these buyers that are sometimes twice your age. Okay. And a lot of anxiety for a young salesperson is, well, what if they don't trust me? What if they don't want to give me an opportunity because I'm young? Right. And if you're able to exemplify and demonstrate your knowledge, expertise, and persistence, like that is going to rise above age. And if you're transparent with them and say, listen, I get it. I haven't been doing this for super long, but nobody wants this more than I do. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And if I don't have an answer, which I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to have all the answers all the time, because I'm just not. I've got 50 people back in my office that have been doing this for 20 plus years that I can go to and find the answer. So my promise to you is that I will go find your answer and I will do whatever it takes to make sure that this is successful. You can count on me for that. And people appreciate that. They don't want someone that's going to fluff them up and pretend like they know all the answers and tell people what they want to hear. That's not going to work. People appreciate and respect transparency, loyalty, and persistence.
Holy shit. Listeners, we have already like hit the jackpot here with some of the fire that is coming into the mic from Cris over here.
Fireside
like,
chats,
we need to cool
baby.
it off here a little bit. Like already tons of value to any listener. I'm getting a lot out of this. Let's roll into kind of just what even got you interested in real estate in the first place. I know you currently invest in real estate and you do it in a unique way. And I have not had a guest on the podcast that invests like you do. And I love it. Can't wait to dive into it. What got you interested in it in the first place?
I really think it goes all the way back to how I came up. Okay. So I grew up very middle class. We had everything that we needed, right? But, couldn't go get the extra things, right? And that's okay. Like a lot of people grow up like that. But what it created for me was a want to go get more and be successful and go from there, right? So I've always had this desire to prove myself. And some of it was because I grew up in a small town called Carroll, Iowa, which has about 10,000 people. It's a very white-based town, not a lot of diversity. Well, my mom, as you heard earlier, is Filipino, and my dad's German-Irish, so I'm a mutt, basically. But with that, being 5'6" and multicultural, I got some shit, and that's just the reality. And I'm not asking for pity or anything. I'm just telling you the truth of the matter. So coming up that way, I created a chip on my shoulder that I wanted to go out and do everything I could to be successful and, I don't know, prove everybody wrong, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. But I had this inner fire and this inner drive to want to succeed. So that basically led me into, I'm not the smartest guy, right? I mean, I got a 25 on my ACT, but I just outworked everybody. Like, that's just the point. Like, I was valedictorian, and then that led me going to UNI, where I was summa cum laude, again, just from pure work ethic.
And you, like, to be valedictorian, you have to have your shit together at age 14. Like,
I'm just so competitive.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost unhealthy how competitive I was and am, because like I'd be in the same class as one of my buddies in college, and he'd be like, "Hey, dude, I read this chapter," and I'd be like, "Oh shit, I haven't read this fucking chapter yet."
Yeah.
So I'd go read like 2 more chapters, and that sounds super nerdy, but it has nothing to do with like school. It was just a matter of like, I'm that competitive, and I don't want anybody to have an edge on me. And how you do anything is how you do everything. And I live by that, dude. So anyways, I'm kind of giving you the backstory of like my inner drive and everything. And my why back then was, I wanted to give my future family everything that I didn't have. And I wanted to be the best. And I wanted to just outwork everybody and show everybody that I was worthy, you know? And that's great. And that served me well in the moment and over that time. Now that can become really unhealthy as well. So I've had a lot of time to reflect upon that, and my why has shifted into now wanting to serve and give back and do things that are for the greater good and create more of a legacy, right? So it has shifted. But to get back to your original question, and I think hopefully that was good to take you through that.
You got to start with why. Simon Sinek.
That's right, dude. That's a
hell of a good book. I appreciate you starting with why. Yes.
Yeah. So I started following these people like Peter Voog, Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, all these guys. Grant Cardone was really the first one I would say that got me into real estate, because he obviously preaches that in all of his books, you know, the 10X rule, be obsessed or be average, you name it. And I just saw like what really attracted me to real estate was the fact that you can have ownership in something and have it create passive income. The passive income thing was just eye-opening to me. Like, I can own this property and it's going to bring in a certain amount of income to me every single month. And then I can use debt basically, you know, for good. Right.
Yeah.
And use it without having to technically use my own money, like over the long run anyways, and just keep building upon that. So my dream, and I haven't got there yet, is to eventually own a huge multifamily deal that creates passive income, and where my passive income can basically support my lifestyle, you know, and have, that's, in my opinion, that's financial freedom.
Yep. Love it. That's really good. Really good. I love how, okay, so listeners, Cris and I, we met about a year ago now. So we've stayed in touch and talked a lot about goals, and we used to talk regularly about, you know, things that we were doing to move the needle. The guy is a freak success-wise, and he's like can rattle off his why just like that. And I think that just it speaks volumes for like where you are right now. It just makes sense. Like, you know exactly why you were grinding your face off for 5, 6, 7, 8 years to get to a point where you are right now. So listeners, I just think, you know, being well connected to why you do what you do, I think is a really good place to start as far as growing and becoming more successful and moving the needle. So
yeah, because you need to have something that's going to pull you out of bed in the morning. You know, it's got to be for something more than just you, in my opinion. I think we were put on this earth more than just to serve our own individual needs. And if you don't have something like that is going to get you out of bed like a firecracker, you're not going to be as successful as you could, or you're not going to fulfill your ultimate potential. And again, which is also, in my opinion, a moving target. Like, I don't think we ever get to the destination. And that's the problem. A lot of times people think that there is this final destination, that once I make a certain amount of money, or once I have this house or this spouse or these kids or this job, I mean, you name it, they think that, I'll be happy when, it's like someday I'll, right? Peter Vug talks a lot about this. He says, get out of someday I'll, and that's someday I'll be happy when, and it's everything that we just said. Because the reality is, and I can tell you this, like, I have hit a lot of these goals and objectives, and like many successful people will tell you, that's not where it lies. That's not where happiness lies. That's not where fulfillment lies. You get there, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, now what? What's next? Now what do I do? It's very brief. The moments of that feeling, they go away, and then your mind, because of Western society and how we're doing what we're doing, tease us up to feel that way. So I'm here to tell you that is not where it's at. It's honestly about the journey and about giving back and service and gratitude and all of that,
all of these things that people can be working on, like can embrace on their journey, like wherever they're at right now. There's a lot of things that people can kind of start doing or embracing and just enjoying more to feel more fulfilled, because there is no real destination, right?
Yeah, dude, there's just not. I'm telling you.
Dude, that is so good. And I'd like to get back to some of that stuff, because I know like some of your philosophies are just top notch. So I did want to get into, you've bought a couple houses. You just kind of moved into a new build. Can you just talk? Let's just get started on that process. Like you just went through the process of building a new house. First of all, why did you want to build that new house, and not instead of buying an existing one? And how was the process for you?
Yeah, great question. What I should say is, I didn't have any intention of building a new house or even buying one. So we bought our first house on North Booth Street.
Yeah, man.
This very
right in the heart.
Nice starter home, $125,000 home, right down the street from Fat Tuesdays. Stumble down the hill every once in a while on the weekends.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Rolling home. You gotta have some enjoyment there.
Yeah, rolling home. No, joking aside, we bought that house because I believed in real estate and I believed in ownership, and wanted to build some equity instead of just renting the whole time. So then a few years later, let's just say a year and a half later, we ended up having our first daughter. And then a year and a half later after that, we said, hey, we want to get out of this neighborhood, not because it's necessarily a bad neighborhood, but, we're ready. And then we moved out to Asbury and bought a house out there. And my plan was to just, live there for the next 5+ years. So we lived there for like 4 years. It would actually have been 4 years and a month. And because I had I had a ton of equity in that house. And I'm like, we're good, like there's no need to move. And it's all Aaron Healy's fault.
Aaron Healy,
this is my shout out to you for making me do this deal, which it's a good deal. Anyways, Aaron's like, hey, dude, I just found your next house.
You're kidding.
And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, you're going to love this. Like, I know these people, they're looking to move. It's not on the market yet. I think I can get you this deal. Like, well below what it would go for if it actually hit the market. So my dumbass sends this to Kaylee, my wife, and just planted the seed. She's like, I don't like it because it's not like my style and modern enough. And that just took off this idea of we need to move.
Oh, yeah.
let's move, you know? So anyways, she started looking around and we went and looked at a couple spec houses. The spec house was pretty close to what she wanted, but not exactly. The layout wasn't exactly what she wanted. And Aaron's like, well, you guys should just build. Okay. Sure. Why not, Aaron? Aaron sent us a blueprint and off we went.
Wow.
And we did it in the midst of COVID. Like, we ended up buying the lot out in Silver Oaks, I think in April, like early April. So like right at the front
of
COVID.
Yeah.
Which in hindsight, it couldn't have been a better time. I mean,
really,
like lumber costs went through the roof like this summer, from what I was told.
Insane. It used to be probably when you maybe locked in your deal or whatever, like a 2x4, a stud, just one board, was like under $3, and now they're over $7.50. And so I don't know if you locked in those prices, but
oh no, dude! Like what they told us is, if you were to build the same house now, lumber alone would cost you $60,000 more.
Yeah, that is just nuts.
So my thought process during the whole deal was like, okay, we might have another kid someday, and interest rates are at record lows. And those were like the two main reasons why we did it. And it's because it's like, I was talking to Aaron, who, for those of you who don't know, Aaron Healy is
legend.
He's a legend. He works at Rule & Rule. I've worked with him since I moved to Dubuque. He's helped me with every single purchase that we've done in the sales of our houses as well. He's like, look, if you're going to move in the next 3 to 5 years, these costs are going to continue to go up, right? These building material costs or real estate in general, like, is just going to continue to go up, especially in a really stable market like Dubuque.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off and let's do the damn thing.
Let's do it. So I want to go back too, because we were kind of talking before you committed to this, but did you pay off your entire mortgage on your house out in Asbury?
Yes.
Paid off. So you had zero monthly payment. So many people who might be listening or just the general public would be like, oh man, if I could pay off my house, if I didn't have a house payment, man, then I'd be living. You didn't have a house payment. What made you decide to go out and now, rebuild? Now you got a mortgage again. Why'd you do that?
Rob, I mean, honestly, I've tossed and turned with this philosophy about having debt and no debt on your own personal home.
First of all, before you keep going, I think you did the right thing. I just want you to elaborate on what got you there.
Yeah, I mean, it depends who you talk to, right? And what your personal beliefs are. My thought about debt was just like, I don't want to have debt, so I don't have a mortgage payment. And what I realized as I peeled the onion back even more, it was all fear-based. And, okay, I don't want to have a mortgage payment because then now I don't have this payment that I have to worry about and I've got more flexibility, which is all great, right? But I think a lot of times, at least what I discovered was I doubting my abilities? Like, if all hell broke loose and Cottingham and Butler sold and now I don't have a job, like, do I believe in myself enough to go get another job? And do I believe in the skills that I have? So the way I look at it now is, can I do better with my returns? My interest rate that I locked in was 2.375. Like, just insane.
Yeah.
So do I believe in my investments enough to beat that rate? And worst case scenario, lose my job or company goes out of business or they sell or whatever happens, do I believe myself enough that I could go get another job and be as successful? And the answer to that is yes.
Absolutely. You told me this back early this year, and I've told a lot of people about it. I was just telling my wife about it, like literally last night or 2 nights ago. I was like, I was talking to Cris and he was saying, like, when you start to realize that you've developed these skills that if shit hits the fan, you can go do it again. Like, you can do it again.
And you probably do it faster.
You can probably do it faster because you know more and you're experienced in it. You know that if you lost your job or if C&B went out of business, whatever, if you had to start from scratch, you'd fucking crush it. Gary Vee talks about it all the time.
Say Gary Vee.
Gary Vee is the same way. He's like, if social media, like if TikTok and Twitter and all this stuff, if all of it went out of business, he's like, I'd be fine.
Dude, he has fantasies about people saying, oh, I knew it. He was a fake the whole time. And like, he has fantasies about people saying this shit about him.
Yeah.
And then what his quote is like, and then me rising like a fucking phoenix and just dominating again and building it even bigger than what I had it before.
Yeah, that is powerful. And you introduced it to me, that idea. And I think once you get to a point like that, like, it's got to be just a freeing feeling, like knowing, like, you get rid of that fear. Like, if I lost my job, if I lost something, if a bunch of shit went wrong, like, I'm okay. I've established these skills. They're mine now. Like, you've honed these sales skills. Those are your skills. And if anything went wrong, like, you'd be able to do it again some other way, some other company or whatever. Like,
and that's a big thing. One of the things and habits that I do is gratitude based. And at the end of the day, the fact that you just are sitting here breathing and you're healthy, you can feel your heartbeat. It was given to you. You didn't have to do anything to earn it, right? It beats without you having to do anything. And that's a huge deal because a lot of things that we take for granted, people are fighting for, as simple as just pure health, right? You think about people that are struggling with cancer or some debilitating disease or loss. If you break it down to that and realize that we're all naked already and that we're all going to die eventually and that all of this shit, we're just renting it basically while we're here, right? And you're building a legacy, but at some point the clock's going to end, it's going to end for you. So if you can come to that realization and just have pure bliss and gratitude about that fact, you're going to be able to live a lot more free and you're going to be able to do more, be more, give more, knowing that these aren't your things really. And that's huge.
Wow. We're by far like deeper than we've ever been on the podcast. I'm freaking loving it. This is great. The other thing I was going to say about you selling your house is you didn't have any debt on it. You didn't have a monthly payment. Sell your house, you take on another mortgage. I love it in the investment side of things, and you kind of touched on it there earlier. It's like you can sell your house, take a profit of like what was it? You bought it for X and sold it for?
Bought it for $310 and sold it for $390.
$80,000 profit. Plus, I mean, you had all that equity. You can roll that into a down payment and then take everything else there, all that other equity, and you can invest that however you want. You can use that and, like you talk about, getting better return than that interest rate 2.375 that you're paying on it. It's a huge power move, and I really like that you did that.
Well, I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier before we got on here is the only way you're able to put yourself in a position like this is you have to hustle, you have to grind, you have to outwork everybody, sun up, sun down. You got to be the first in, last out. Like, how bad do you really want it? And I think our society, our generation really gets confused on this because they want all of these things, but their actions don't back that up. And that's a huge problem. Everybody wants a freaking handout. And there's no shortcuts. There's no secret recipe. The recipe is fucking work.
Hard work, more work.
That's all it is. Everything we're talking about, I guarantee you've heard it from in some way, shape, or form over time. However, it's not have you heard it before. Have you implemented it and have you mastered it? That's what matters. And to be in a position like this, to be able to invest and be on this show and talk about these things, I had to find out what I was good at and where I could make money and where I could be successful, right? So I didn't say, okay, I'm at the bottom now. I'm just going to go make all these investments and I want to create my wealth this way. It's, I've got to hustle and I've got to build something to be in a position to even do things like this. And you can't do it the other way.
I love it. So 2 things I want to go in on that. I love that you talk about hustling, consistent day in and day out, showing up early, leaving late. I love that you say that. And you talk about Aaron at our office, he's one of the best. He's the best realtor in the area, 10 years running. He's one of the first ones at the office every day. And one of the things that our company, the systems that our company has in place is I read this thing every day when I get to work. I sit down, I read this little thing that's kind of sets my mind, and it talks about, people who have mastered what you're trying to master. And it's embracing what they're doing and not having resentment for them. Mm-hmm. And I think about Aaron with that. It's he shows up I don't resent any of his success because I see him he shows up every freaking day early, and he puts in the work and he puts in the time, and you can tell he's there's no shortcut for him, and he has gotten everything out of it that he deserves because he puts in the work. And I think you and him have tons of similar philosophies on that.
Oh, and Tony Robbins, big Tony Robbins guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, what he always says is success leaves clues. Mm. You don't need to go recreate the wheel. If you want to be successful, do what successful people do. So just like you did, I read all these books, I've listened to all these podcasts, and I wanted to know, what are the successful people doing? You don't need to guess. The shit's already out there.
Oh, it's all there. 21st century. There isn't that's exactly I wasn't a ridiculously high achiever from a young age. I got to a point in my life where I was I want to be successful. How do I do it? If you type into Google right now, how successful people become successful or something like that, mm-hmm. You're going to have ridiculous, endless amounts of results and it's all there.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a freaking miracle worker.
Yeah.
You just follow these daily habits.
And to your point earlier, if you hate on other people's success, guess what? The universe is listening. I don't know. There's a great book out there called The Secret. It's all about the law of attraction. What you think about and what you believe and manifest will come back in spades. And that can be good and bad, So if you hate on people's success, you're inhibiting your own success. Because the universe is okay, this person doesn't like success, so guess what? I'm not going to give it to him. Mm-hmm. Whether you believe that or not, it's subconsciously happening to you. So the more you can get intentional, and everything about life is your intentions. And the more intentional you can be about this and create these great thoughts and synergies, the more success you're going to have.
Love it. I hope we can get to some daily habits, some of your daily habits and some of these things that you have used to find your success. I think they're outstanding. Let's talk about, as far as the new build goes, backing up a little bit.
Sure.
How was that? I've had a couple clients come to me who are looking for houses. They're frustrated. There's not very many houses for sale. They're screw it, let's build something. They kind of start the process of building. Maybe they contact a few builders. They look at a few blueprints, and then they eventually are you know what, that's too much. Mm-hmm. How was it for you? What were the, what made it really successful? What areas were a struggle? The whole thing about new building.
I think for me is I have a great wife that is unbelievable with design and interior design, and she has a vision that I just don't have. So the fact that we kind of had this blueprint, Aaron Healy, him giving us that blueprint sealed the deal, in my opinion. So for all of you agents out there, and it goes back to listening, you need to listen to what your customer wants. And if you can deliver on that, and that's what he did. He literally had the perfect freaking blueprint that we wanted because he listened that hey, this was what was wrong in this spec house. And he goes, you know what? I think I've got the perfect blueprint for you. So he ends up giving that to us. And again, what I wrote down before we started talking was like, I will never sit here and tell you I'm a real estate expert. Like, I have people that I trust in this space, you being one of them, Rob, and Aaron being one of them. So Aaron's never led me wrong. I put a ton of trust into him, so he sent us that, and he recommended the builder that we use, being Cedar Ridge Construction, which they did an absolute phenomenal job. So that process, because we had the blueprint done already, like that wasn't that bad. Where it gets challenging is all of the decisions, internally. What kind of flooring do we want? Well, we could do this flooring for 25 grand or this flooring for 32. Like, what do you want to do? And all that shit adds up, right? It just goes bang, bang, bang. And for me, like, I upgraded, the cover deck into a Four Seasons room and, put in a few other bells and whistles into the house that I really wanted. But all of the other stuff, like, I have to give a lot of credit to Kaylee, my wife, because she ran with it and she's got the eye for it and I don't. And I trust her, and she's unbelievable.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I know there's a lot of decisions to be made, and what I'm hearing is like, trusting the right people, and I really like that you are willing to understand, like, okay, I'm not the real estate expert here. I'm not the design expert, but I know a real estate agent. I know, my wife, like they're outstanding at these things. Like, let them do it. Like, I'm sure Kaylee enjoyed doing that. I'm sure Aaron enjoyed doing that. Like, you kind of understand your role in those things. And that's awesome that it was able to kind of come together how it did. It looks amazing. Do you remember your first investment in real estate? And what do you remember about it, if you do?
Yeah. It was probably the riskiest deal I've ever done.
Yes. Love it. Let's hear it.
So my buddy, he's like my best friend, and he basically went through that course. I don't know what it's called. You basically get access to a bunch of
real estate investing opportunities.
Yeah, like opportunities. You get access to this network, when it comes to, I don't know. He went through this big training thing, and like, it was like a 3-day deal. God, I can't remember the name of what it's called.
It was about real estate investing.
It was about real estate investing.
Do you know who was hosting it? Like, it was a seminar or a course, or it's just a course?
It's a course. It's both, kind of. Like,
okay.
You basically get access to this network where you get to basically leverage a bunch of different resources when you're doing these real estate deals. Contractors they try to put you in touch with. It's going to come to me eventually. But anyways, he goes through this deal, and then him and his buddy start looking through deals and find this house in Boulder, Colorado, and they're going to do a fix and flip. And he needs me for private money lending.
Do you remember when this was?
Yeah, it was 2018, I want to say.
Okay. 17
or 18, I want to say.
Okay. So just a couple of years ago. So he needs you for private money. So he was going to get a bank loan, but he needed you somewhere in that financing.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, he just needed me somewhere in the financing.
Okay.
He needed me for the down payment, and then basically what I also was responsible for was the monthly interest, which on a fix and flip is expensive.
Yeah.
So,
because it's supposed to be like, because banks don't love a fix and flip. So they were probably, I'm imagining what was happening is they were going to give him a loan. They were going to charge a shitload of interest, and it was going to be short term.
Yeah.
And like, so you were going to do the down payment, you were going to do the interest, and he was going to fix it all up out in Boulder, Colorado.
Yep, exactly. And in doing so, I would get a certain percentage, while the loan was sitting out there. And then I negotiated, when the house sold, if it sold for a certain amount, I would get, a certain amount of profitability on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
What was supposed to take, 4 or 5 months ended up taking like 7 or 8. So I'm freaking out, obviously, at this point.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of money. We got a lot of money on this deal. And the buyer, it fell through a couple different times, when it all went down. He had some issues with contractors. Like this one contractor, it was taking forever on the bathroom tile. And he had to fire him. He had to fire this contractor, and the dude came in with a hammer and just beat the shit out of the bathroom tile.
Like what was already done. He's like, I'm starting from scratch.
Yep. He just, you fired me, screw you. I'm going to bang this whole thing up and just cause all this damage.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. And you're sweating a little bit back here.
Yeah, dude. And then in the middle of the deal, he's like, hey, we ended up needing more money. Can you wire me, $20,000?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Jesus. All right. So I ended up doing that. And to this day, it was the first deal I ever did. It's just so much. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Fortunately, got out of there and got all my principal back.
Good.
And then, the return ended up being annualized, close to 25 or 30%. So
damn, that's good.
It was a really good deal.
Really good.
There's a lot of risk, a lot of skin in the game, and that's kind of what, I don't want to say rubbed me the wrong way. Like my buddy, he didn't necessarily have any skin in the game per se. At least from what it seemed like. Because I was putting up the money, and he had this
put the down payment, the bank paid the rest.
Right. So it seemed a little and that's kind of why I like deals where the individual has something to lose as well.
And I hear that ton. That's one of the main things that people will talk about with private money deals. So listeners, we're talking about private money here. If you don't have enough money to do a real estate deal, there's a couple options. You can talk to somebody who you might know who has some cash. That'd be a private money deal. You can also, there's companies out there that are willing to give you the cash for a higher interest rate. That's a hard money deal. If you have a relationship with the person, they don't do it as a profession. It's called a private money deal, and Cris has mastered it over the last few years. But you talk about the other person having some skin in the game. That seems to be something that I hear a lot about. Private money people, hard money people, they really like to see the person they're lending to also has some skin in the game. I like it. So what'd you learn from that first one? It seems like you got a good return at the end of the day, but there was probably some headaches and some sweating going on.
Yeah, there really was.
Holy shit, am I going to lose all this money?
Yeah. No, I felt pretty good because there was a contract in place. Hey, if this fails, this is going to happen. And I'll have to pay for all of your legal bills if you have to sue me, and you can get access to all my assets if it goes down this far, and yada, yada, yada. So I don't know. I felt pretty good about that piece.
Yeah.
But then it's okay, if all that happens, but you don't really have a whole lot. What assets do you actually have? Now at the time he actually had a couple other real estate deals going on. So potentially could have had access to those. Excuse me. So what I learned from that was I prefer my money to be in more so equity deals, long-term equity deals. Not saying I won't do these short-term fix and flips, because you and I are doing one as we speak.
We're going to get into it, baby.
Yeah. So, but more so I think where I'm at now is my long-term play. I'd like to be in more equity-based deals where maybe you're getting maybe a lower percentage, but you're paying down debt as well. And then when you refinance the deal, you get more, and if you eventually sell it, you actually have equity in the deal,
and you might have a chance for some monthly checks in the mail type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hear it. I really like I'm so freaking excited that you're on the show because I know, and we just got done talking about this with the designing and Aaron as your realtor. Like, you do not claim to be a real estate investing guru, or like you will not tell people like, oh yeah, I know a lot about real estate investing, but you're investing and in real estate. And I love that you are using relationships, and you're vetting every single deal, and you are able to invest in real estate without having to become a master at it. Because I talk to a lot of people who say like, oh yeah, it'd be great if I studied all these different ways to invest in real estate and I had 20 hours a week to do a flip or something like that. Like, oh yeah, I'd definitely invest at that point. You are not doing that. And
I think that's huge, because it's about knowing yourself and knowing what your skill set is. And for me, I can't barely hammer a freaking nail. Okay. Yeah. So like, I know that about myself. That's not who I am. So I know that I am going to have to be the money guy, because I'm not going to go have time to invest in these houses and flip them myself. Like I don't have the time. I've got a career with a bunch of customers that I have to tend to and a family. Like, I'm not going to be able to do those things. And I understand that, which is why I knew if I wanted to get in the real estate game, it was going to have to be on these terms where I'm the money guy.
Yeah.
Right? I'm using money to make more money and getting on good deals with people that I trust.
People that you trust and people that are knowledgeable.
Yep.
I freaking, I just love it. It's so good that you've gotten to this, because so many people are sitting here like, oh, I don't know how to pound a nail. I don't know how to, I'm just not going to get into real estate. I put my money in stocks or whatever, but
right.
I freaking love it. So,
and I want to have options. I want to do both. I want to be able to invest in the stock market and in real estate and in companies and you name it. Like
companies.
That's part of my whole philosophy. Is like, I want to have enough funds to diversify. And some people don't believe in that. Some people believe like Grant Cardone's like huge. He's like,
real estate
screw
only.
401k, like real estate all the way. Like, I love real estate, but if you have the money to do it, I think you can do it right. Being in these pockets, I believe in these things. I believe in real estate. I believe in the market, and I believe in investing in companies. Those are my paths. And I know that I can't get to financial freedom just by, what I do for a job.
Yeah.
And the income I make that way. It takes money. It doesn't take money to make money. I'm just saying you got to use your money wisely to compound over time.
Love it. I love that you say that. When you talk about the relationships that you have and just knowing who you are, capitalizing on what you are good at, rolling that into these relationships with other people that are able to give you a good return.
Mm-hmm. I
think that's something that a lot of people are missing. There are so many people, anyone who's owned their house for 10 years in Dubuque, you have enough equity in your house that you could do exactly what you're doing. You could roll it into a real estate deal. You could be passive with it, and it could give you a 15% return, 20, 25, 30% return.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of my passion, is like, people wake up, like, everyone can do something about this to like capitalize on what I believe is like the best asset in real estate. So talk about, so that was your first deal.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done 5, 6, 7, 8 other deals since then.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about those.
Okay.
and how those have gone for you.
So the second deal I did after this was, I took $10,000 and I put it in what's called Cardone Capital. And Grant Cardone, obviously, he owns multiple real estate portfolios. And basically what he does is he buys this multifamily deal and you can become an owner in it, basically. So I just did that to test the waters. I just want to see like what the hype was about, if it was real. So I'm making a modest return on that. And obviously it's going to take a while once he refinances or sells the deal. That's really where the money's going to be on that deal. one of my college buddies, he introduced me to a real estate investor or manager in Des Moines, Iowa. And what I'm doing with him is basically I'm not investing in a particular deal. I'm investing in like a portfolio, basically. So my money's not tied to any one deal, but I get a certain percentage on the money that I invest with him every year. And I can get quarterly payments, monthly payments, semi-annual payments, or annual payments.
Dang.
And you can roll it back into the deal. You can roll all the interest back into your principal, basically, and keep compounding it that way.
How are you? Whoever this guy in Des Moines is, I like what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, holy shit. Like, he's giving his investors all these options.
Mm-hmm.
So your buddy introduced you to him, and what was it about what he was doing that was like, yeah, here's my money. I like the return. Like, I like your options. I'll invest in you. Do you remember, like, what was it that you were like, damn, this is going to be good?
He had a track record of success. And, asked him some tough questions about, hey, what's my real risk here? What's my protection, security? What does that look like? Asked him, what kind of skin do you have in the game? What's your strategy look like? And he basically made me feel comfortable enough with all those answers that I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll test the waters with you and give you a shot. And he's pulled through, And I've done that for about 1.5 years or so.
Heck yeah.
And it's worked. I've gotten all my interest payments, and whatnot. And he got me involved. He needed help on a deal that they were trying to sell and a couple things needed to be done to it. So his other partner that was in on the deal wanted to get out because of needing some certain cash funds at the time. So I basically took a second mortgage on that deal. And that was like a 4 or 5 month deal where I put some money out there for him. And then in that short time, I got, a higher percentage because it was a second mortgage deal and a short-term deal. So that was great. But I've got that relationship. I've got another buddy that's in Wisconsin in the, I want to say Madison area, but he also does something similar, and he's starting to get more into multifamily complexes, apartment complexes, and going under contract. He's going to get me in the loop on that too, because he also does like the fix and flip deal, but he also and then does the equity side in addition to that. So I've got that contact, and then I got a guy out of Kansas City who their company does something as well in the Kansas City area, but on a bigger level, basically, where they're investing in big apartment complexes and big commercial real estate, some not single family, but like more residential type stuff.
Syndications, where they bring together guys like you who want to invest in real estate, but they don't want to be spending hours every day thinking about it and actually doing it. So
that's just mailbox money is what they're doing. Like
mailbox money.
It's all that. That's what it is. And then I actually have another one in Wisconsin that's more of like a long-term play. I mean, you're going to be into this like fund for like at least 10 years, basically. And like their minimum investment is like $75,000 or something like that, or 7 shares or however you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So now that I think about it, I got a lot of contacts.
Going.
Yeah.
I remember talking to you like 10 months ago, and you're like, I need to invest in real estate some more. And then, we had been talking, on and off for the next month or two. And it was just like you had just been telling people like, yeah, I want to start investing in real estate. And it seemed like, you were doing a little bit more than that, but all of a sudden you were putting together these deals. And it's just like you started, and I remember you telling me like, yeah, I just started talking about real estate, and all of a sudden I got like 3 or 4 deals I got to start, vetting out and making sure they're a good idea. And all of a sudden I'll be investing in real estate. Like that's outstanding that like you just like kind of decided that you wanted to invest in real estate. You started talking to people about it. All of a sudden this is where you're at. You got like 5 or 6, 7, 8 deals on.
It goes back to the secret. It goes back to the law of attraction. Like what you put out in the world, you're going to get back. And what I was putting out in the world was I'm interested in real estate, and I'm voicing that. And guess what? The universe heard and put me in touch with the right people at the right time that has gotten me into these deals. And I believe that. And the next deal that we did was one of my buddies, his now fiance's parents live on Lake Delhi, or have a house on Lake Delhi. And the older folks next to him were trying to move and sell it. My buddy called me and he's like, hey, I've got this deal. I need your help, on the, financing side for the funds that we're going to put in to fix this deal. So I ended up, we struck a deal, and basically between the two of us, between the purchase price and what we put in for the rehab, we're going to be into this deal for $100,000 total. And what we're going to sell it for this spring, market value, what we're seeing out there is like 200,000 plus. So we're going to profit in a year. We only hold on to it for longer because of tax implications of like owning a property for a year or less. Like there's like certain tax.
Over a year, should be better.
So we're going to sell that deal this spring and hopefully profit over $100,000.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yes. That's huge, man. That is awesome, man. I'm glad it's all the sacrifice you made in your career, and you knew, you saw the vision. Eventually I want to get into some of this investing stuff that's going to start to give back, and it's going to start to make it, passive income, mailbox money, some of these things that people really wish they could get to. You put in the sacrifice, you put in the time, and all these habits that you put together got you to a point where you can do these sort of passive investments, and they're giving you a good return. I'm just excited for you because, I listen to a lot of real estate podcasts, and investing is huge. It's part of my passion. There's really 3 parts to a deal. It's like the money, the deal itself, and the hustle. You don't have time to be putting in the hustle on the deal. You don't have time to be going to every work spot after work and pounding nails and screwing in boards and doing all this stuff. You don't have time to be watching for deals all the time. You got the money, and you found a way to invest in real estate and make it so it works out to who you are. You're aware of who you are. You're aware of your strengths. And you found a way to make it happen. And it seems like these relationships that you developed have really helped you along the way.
Absolutely. There's no question that those relationships have been key to this whole thing. But it all starts with, you got to build that foundation.
That foundation, your hard work over long periods of time, punching the clock every day.
Yeah.
And I like that. You're checking with people who you trust. Okay, here's this real estate deal that I might have an opportunity on. And you're talking to people who you trust, your family, friends. Hey, is this a good deal? Should I do this? You're talking to people who you really trust, and because you're not the expert, but you know people who can help you out in these things.
Yeah, dude. Aaron Healy is one of my go-to guys on these things. All of these real estate deals, I put them in front of him. And especially there was one of these Des Moines offerings, and Aaron happened to have a relationship in the industry in Des Moines that he calls and trusts as well, and had him drive by one of these deals I was looking at. And he said, yeah, dude, it's not a good deal. And I didn't do it. So, and I'm glad I didn't do it, because, and it probably would have turned out fine. But for me, the comfort level was huge, and doing the research and the recon is great. So it's also knowing when to say no and not stretching yourself too thin. I do all these deals, but I never put myself in a position where I could lose everything. Right?
Is that your mindset going in? It's okay, here's the how do you look at the risk and reward? It's okay, best case scenario, this happens. Worst case scenario, this happens. Where is the line for you?
And for me, it's okay, I'm putting X amount into the marketplace, into my 401k, into the kids' 529 plans, into life insurance, all these things. It's like, okay, I check those boxes. I feel good about what that return's going to be. Now I want to get on the side of real estate because I believe in it. So I have this amount of money that I'm going to utilize to look at potential deals and invest in them. So that's kind of how I look at it. And I say, okay, well, what's my risk versus reward? Okay, I'm putting X amount of dollars in for a 10 or 15% return.
Over how long?
Over how long?
Yeah.
Like, what could the market do on the stock market side? Like, so that's kind of how I analyze things. But it goes back to my philosophy of how I believe to generate wealth, or what I believe to generate wealth, and that's the market, stock market, and real estate, right? And then that's a whole nother deal, but companies as well, like
whole different deal, yeah.
Also invested on the venture capital side,
yeah,
as well. So I've got these different silos in my portfolio. And maybe that's right, maybe it's wrong. No, but you guys still
we're going to find out in like 10, 20 years, right?
Figure it out.
Dude, I love that you say that. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad, this book that you're going to read, it's just going to cement that in for you. Like you have your money working for you at this point. Like you have enough for your lifestyle, and you're like, I'm going to put this money to work. It's like outstanding. It's it's what it's going, everything that you're doing right now, real estate investing wise, it's going to pay off long-term down the road. Like it's all going to be something that is going to help you get to where you want to be as far as your long-term investments. Taking on another seltzer. Folks, I do not drink as much as I used to. And I'm on like my 5th seltzer. I had one before you got here. I didn't tell you about it. I loosened up a little bit before you got here.
And I think this, for me, especially recently, it goes back to what we talked about earlier with like the fact that you're going to die. And you don't know when it's going to be. You really don't. And I'm not going to sit here and be super concerned. Oh my gosh, I want to, I'm going to retire at whatever age, and you just never know. Like I'm not saying be stupid about it and be irresponsible. Like do what you got to do, be smart with your investments, but don't let it inhibit you from living life and living out of fear and anxiety, because that's not going to get you anywhere. And that's ultimately what creates a lot of disease, and is this stress and being out of homeostasis within your own mind and your own body. Like that in and of itself, living in this fight or flight mode all the time. I'm big into this Dr. Joe Dispenza guy. He's freaking phenomenal.
Oh, he's a freak.
Dude, he's
awesome,
so good.
Dude.
He's sick. So
I haven't got his book yet, but I want to.
So good. Living in that state, no organism can live in a state of fight or flight as long as they can and not create disease. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of our society is we are living in a state of fear all the time. And we're doing that so consistently that we get out of whack. We get out of homeostasis. And that ultimately creates disease and death and all this stuff, dude.
How have you gotten to this point where you're like, these things, like, and so you implement these habits and these routines and these systems in your daily life? How have you gotten these habits established? And like, how are they helping you? How are they serving you, your daily habits?
It's what I believe makes up who you are. Your habits ultimately I should rephrase this. You are a composite of the habits that you have. And the only way to change your life is through habit. And that couldn't be more true. Like everybody's like, oh my gosh, like how are you doing all these things? Like how are you reaching these levels of success? And ultimately it comes down to daily habits. Everybody thinks it has to be this big moment or this big account
that changes the tide.
That's going to change the tide. And it's complete and utter bullshit. It is the small wins day in and day out over the long term that are going to get you there. It's pure consistency. And Nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear what's the secret sauce?
The secret.
What is it, dude? Like, well, how can I get there quicker? No one wants to put in the time. Everybody says they want to, but at the end of the day, most people truly don't want it. And that's okay. If you're happy and you're content and you're totally chill doing what you're doing, and that's okay. Some people are like that, but we have too many people, and Gary Vee says this all the time, that are just bitching about the place that they're in, the state that they're in, the amount of money they have, but they're sitting at home doing diddly shit and binge watching whatever and not doing anything to get them there. Their actions are not correlated with success. And that's the problem. So I can get behind people that are putting in the time and that want it, but those people that say they want it and their actions don't back it up, I can't get behind that, you know?
When you're asked about like how you've done it, there's no secret. It's just showing up every single day. It's consistent and it's wanting it, and it's like walking the walk and not talking the talk.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hearing.
That's all it is. It's practice, it's effort, it's determination. And for me, it was, what are these other successful people doing? So to get to your question, you can say whatever you want to, but most successful people get up really fucking early.
Yeah.
Okay? It's just the truth. I don't care who you talk to. There are outliers that sleep until 7 or 8, but most of them get up pretty early. Okay? And for me, especially now with 2 little kids, I have to do that. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to get to, focus on me. Right? A lot of people wake up and the first thing they see is their phone. And ultimately, they're now at the begging call of these notifications and these things they think they have to do.
Living on someone else's schedule.
Yeah, living on someone else's schedule, someone else's terms. So I'm a huge believer of getting up. I don't check any of my emails. I don't check any of my notifications on social media. I go straight to like prayer. So I'm huge into prayer. Like, I don't know what your religion is. I don't really care. It's just a matter of like, I focus on that time of like what I believe. Okay. So I probably spend 15 or 20 minutes, in prayer in the morning, first thing. And then for the next, I used to do 5 or 10 minutes. Now I'm doing more like 30 to 45 minutes, like meditation. So I'll do like deep meditation, breathing exercises, you name it. And then after that, and sometimes I do it in the sauna too, which is great. Like, that's badass, dude.
You got a sauna at your house now?
Yeah, dude. Love it. Great investment.
I'm coming over.
Great investment. And then after that, I work out. So I usually work out for anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. And then from there, I get the kids ready, get them out the door with my wife, or I take them to school or to daycare and pre-K. And then I come back and I write down my goals. And I write down my objectives for the day. Not objectives. I write down my goals, my long-term goals. So I actually have them memorized. I write them down every day about the person of who I want to become. And that's really what my goals are about. At least like the first 4 or 5 are like who I want to become. So like I have my
goals.
Identity, right? And to me, writing things down, it goes back to that intentionality. If you don't write things down, you're living in this wishy-washy world. Like you need to know what you're striving for and who you're trying to become. So like I have a spiritual one, right? It's like I'm a faithful child of God, right? That follows and trusts Christ. Like that's my number one thing. Okay. And then I am a loving husband, that demonstrates his wife's love language. Okay. That's number 2. My third one is I'm a present and loving father that spends time with his kids intentionally. Number 4 is I'm a humble, passionate person, who strives for a legacy and gives back to others in need. So like none of those things had anything to do with work or hitting goals,
numbers,
money, or any of that. Like for me, it's more about who are you becoming along the way. That's bigger to me than anything else.
That's powerful.
And if those are my truths, that's what I'm living by, and I'm trying to fulfill those every day, the rest will fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
It's
so good. Writing that stuff down. It's huge. That's so good.
And if I could give this group one thing. It's from Andy Frisella, and it's the Win the Day podcast. Search Andy Frisella's MFCEO podcast. It's number like 100 something, I think. And
Win the Day.
His Win the Day podcast is dynamite. And I think what everybody loses sight of is they think they get overwhelmed by their big long-term goals. Like, oh my gosh, I gotta close, 20 real estate deals in 2021. And you get so overwhelmed by that big goal that you paralyze yourself from taking action. And the reality is you just have to get little wins. You just got to get 1% better every day and hit these little objectives that are ultimately going to get you there. It's called reverse engineering. You're going to reverse engineer from the goal of writing 20 real estate deals, reverse engineer it back to what do I have to do day in and day out. And all you got to do is win the day. If you stack up enough W's versus L's, you're going to be successful. I don't care what you say. So all you got to do every day is write down your top 5 objectives for the day. And as long as you hit those 5, everybody wants to write down freaking 20 things. Write down 5 that you think are critical. And if you can hit those and you say you hit those, at the end of the day, you'd write a W in your journal or whatever you use.
Calendar, anything.
Calendar, you name it. And the more W's you stack up, I guarantee you the more successful you're going to be. So that is a huge, huge lesson that has served me really well. The other lesson that served me well is planning your week on Sundays. Plan every major objective you need to do for that week on Sunday. Okay. And then every day before the day even starts. So the day before, I plan my next day out for what I'm going to accomplish and what I'm going to do almost on an hour by hour basis. Okay. So I have like blocks of time, 1 hour, 2 hour windows where like between 8 and 10 a.m., I'm going to make 10 cold calls and focus on this. From 10 to 11, I'm going to focus on this customer deal, that I'm working on. I literally do that for every single day. And at the end of the day, I reflect upon it. Did I hit what I needed to? And then I plan the next day. So by the time I hit my seat at my desk, I know what I got to do. Most people are sitting there Monday morning. They don't figure out what the hell they got to actually do until Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
sitting there, spinning their wheels, trying to figure out how to get traction.
I love that you say that. How I was like die hard to the schedule, like all of these things that you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I was die hard on them.
Okay.
And I've honestly been struggling a little bit in the last month or two. I feel like I'm getting more and more busy.
Okay.
And I committed to some of these prospecting and some of these working on the business, growing the business. I committed to some of these goals back when I was less busy to do these things, to fill my calendar, to like really propel myself forward. Now that I've become more busy, I'm struggling a little bit to now stay with all of these consistent day in and day out little things that are going to move the needle as far as like time blocking every single day, journaling, gratitude, affirmations. Like those are all things that at the beginning of the year, I tell you, I do them every single freaking day.
Yep.
And honestly, now I'm like, geez, some days I sit down and it's like, I got so many things I got to be doing and I'm struggling, but I know you're doing a shitload and you're still able to stick to some of these habits and routines. How are you able to do that?
To be completely honest and vulnerable with you, like I have slipped up on occasion. 2020 has given us, I think, I don't want to say an excuse, but it's been challenging. So I think we've all kind of let our foot off the gas pedal in some aspect of our lives. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm perfect because I've got a lot of work to do. I'm still learning. I'm a lifelong learner. That's what I believe in. And I want to continue to get better. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've done it every single freaking day.
Yeah.
Because it's just not true.
Right.
It's just not. But I do know that when I do these things, I produce bigger and better results. And I'm more efficient and I'm more effective. And it builds confidence. Confidence is a compound effect.
Yes.
The more success that you have day in and day out, it's going to compound and it's going to lead into the next success. And that's going to lead to the next success. And that's all it is. It's momentum. Success is momentum.
So good.
So I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
And trying to get better.
It's
day in and
you
day
constantly,
out, so.
constantly working on it. God dang, a couple of just like, some good stuff, man. Like momentum and like self-confidence. Like I think the best way to grow your self-confidence is keeping the promises that you set for yourself. Keeping promises for yourself. We're so quick to like, oh shoot, I was going to be home by 5, but I got this appointment that I could take. And, we're so quick to like break these promises with ourselves. And it really breaks down our self-confidence, I believe.
Oh, dude, 100%. I mean, my screensaver on my computer to this day, and from the day I started, says, it's by Grant Cardone. It says, let the rest do whatever while you do whatever it takes. And as I reflect upon that quote all the time, it's like, man, that just proves to be true all the time. When you don't want to do something is when you should do it the most. When you don't want to meditate, when you don't want to make that call, I have too many examples of, I was at the end of my day and I'm like, screw it. I'll make the call tomorrow. But then I made it and I actually got a hold of the dude and it led to my next client. Like, if you have that feeling, just take one more action. Just do it. You just got to do it.
So good. So good. A lot of good stuff here. Everyone who's listening, like, so many nuggets. I don't even know. Every week I pick a highlight. Like I try to narrow it down to like one thing that the guest said that I can highlight on my social media. And like, I don't even know where I'm going to start with this one.
It's been fun, man. I really appreciate it.
Dude,
it's been awesome.
I have enjoyed it too.
Well, I think the other thing that I will say, and this is perfect for this conversation, because you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Just do that with anything. Who you surround yourself with, who you network with is crucial to your success. If you hang around negative people all the time, you will ultimately become negative. Even if you don't think you are, subconsciously, because that's the shit that you're putting in your head. That's what you're hearing. It is going to sink in and it's going to have an impact on you as an individual. So I'm very protective on who I let in my inner circle. And actually, Rob is in my inner circle. Me, you, and Cody, we have a mastermind group. And I've believed in mastermind groups for the longest time. Probably a year or two into my career at Cottingham, me and Cody Fitzgerald started this mastermind group, and we met every Sunday. We meet every Sunday to talk about our objectives and plan for the next week. And what are we struggling with? Like, you have to have people that you can talk to, bounce ideas off of, and otherwise you're going to drive yourself crazy. And they need to be people that are going to push you to become better, right? That are even better than you are in certain regards. Okay. So who you surround yourself should be a huge takeaway to this, because you need people that are going to make you level up. Because if you don't have those people, you're not going to get very far. You need a good network. You need a great friend group. You need some heavy hitters. You need some people that are just going to freaking kill it for you.
And I love that you say that, because it takes me back to about a year ago now. I was taking in content like this for a while. How to be successful. Success leaves clues. What are these successful people doing? How are they getting to be so successful? And I came across this idea of you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I was telling my wife, I was like, I need to surround myself with more people who are like, they want to get after it. They want to chase goals. They have these systems, routines, and they like have vision, and, they want to be successful. And, she says, I know a guy. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, I know a guy. He'd be right up your alley. I said, who? She says, Cris Houlihan. I'm like, I don't even know. Like, who's this guy? She's like, he's at CMB. He's freaking crushing it. He's just like, he has so many similar thought processes as you. Like, I could probably hook you up with him. And she did. And all of a sudden, we met at Dimensional. We talked about, God, I can remember meeting you. And I was nervous. And I'm like, we sat down and I was like, Jesus, like, so many things that you're saying is like resonating with me. And the same thing for this podcast. But here we are a year later.
Well, then months later, we convinced you to quit your job.
Yeah. Dude, like you have had you talk about a legacy. You've had such a ridiculous impact on my life. I've only known you for a year. I would probably still be teaching. I would probably still be at American Realty. Right now, I'm not teaching. I'm at Rule and Rule Realtors, and both huge things in my life that I think are moving me forward. And I can't, like, you have had such a huge impact on me. So yeah, people who are listening, reach out to people who you think, are doing some of the things you want to be doing. They have some of the goals that you want to have. They're striving to be better. Definitely do that. And with that, we're going to roll into the closing questions. Cris, what's your favorite book?
Ooh. Man, that's a tough one. Gosh, you got a lot of them up here, actually, dude. Like, that's crazy.
I got some good ones. I've really tried to read the ones that, like, everyone says are good. Because I keep hearing about books that, like, oh yeah, this is good, this is good, this is good. So I've been trying to read all the ones that everyone swears by.
Yeah, you get a lot of them here, actually, that we're looking at that are in my top. The one that honestly changed my life and made me blow up, I would say, is The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. God, that book just... And Grant Cardone gets a lot of heat and a lot of negative press sometimes. But, dude, you cannot not respect his energy and his success and what he's done. And that book really just made me think bigger. Like 10X everything that you're doing. Like, people thought that writing $1 million in revenue as a broker and as an individual really wasn't possible. And like most brokers' goals is to write $100,000 of revenue to your agency that you're working for. Not premium, I'm talking revenue, commissions. And I'm like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to set my goal at $1 million. And I ended up doing that, multiple times.
Youngest ever. How the heck do you do that? You're the youngest ever to do that. And probably you've set these goals, or you've set these records at CMB. How the heck, like, how do you do that at such a young age? You're a freaking freak.
It's everything we talked about. If I had to sum it up,
there's no secret sauce.
If I had to sum it up in one word, it's persistency. 2 words: persistency and consistency. The third thing I would say is getting people to want to work with you. Like, people want to do business with people they like, and I try to be able to get along with anybody and show that I care and have compassion and empathy and show that I really want to help them. And I bleed passion. That is one thing I've always done, is I bleed passion, and I just want it more than anybody else. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And that's a huge thing about anybody's success.
I was talking this morning with a couple of agents at our office. They asked me, like, what was your best podcast so far? And I told them it was a certain episode that it was Candace Udale-Lebach.
Okay.
She, and the reason why, it's not because she was the best investor. It's not because she had the most income, most money, anything like that. It's because she was freaking passionate to the core.
That's what's up.
I told these guys, I'm like, I did not really know much about her before we started.
It's infectious.
I did not know about, she was big in transportation in Dubuque. I did not know anything about it, but she's freaking passionate about it to the core. It's like, damn, like I totally resonate with, what you talk about, like being passionate. You sell passion. Like you are freaking passionate about doing more for everyone.
The other books I would say that you have up here, High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. That book's awesome. Atomic Habits by James Clear. Love that book. If you want to get more philosophical, I love the book. Oh man, hold on. I'm gonna have to
look it up.
This is embarrassing. Hold on.
He's such a reader.
Well, I got all these
This
books.
is the only reason I keep all of them right here, so that way I can remember which ones I've read.
The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer is fire. Never Split the Difference. You real estate agents, that Never Split the Difference book is unbelievable.
I audiobooked it, so it's not up here.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. Think Like a Monk I'm reading that one right now.
I have Think Like a Monk and
Sick.
10X.
Yeah.
Both of those are in my to-read
So good. So good.
shelf over here.
So, I'm not. And then, dude, that Phil Knight book, Shoe Dogs. Like, I don't read a lot of books like that, like biographies.
Same.
That book was awesome. So yeah, those are some heavy hitter books right there, man.
Good stuff. What are your hobbies?
Big into working out. I really enjoy, working out, health stuff. Skiing. Love skiing, dude. Me and you go skiing. I'm not as crazy as Rob. Like he's like psycho, go off ramps and try to kill himself.
Yeah,
so I'm not
I
about
got
that
a little
life.
reckless last year.
He a little crazy. Big into golf. I suck, but I enjoy being out there. I love hanging out with friends. Those are probably my two biggest hobbies. I would say that was like skiing and golf, like recreational. Otherwise, I enjoy going on trips. I enjoy hiking. I enjoy seeing new places. I love traveling. Wife and I went to Paris and London for our 5-year anniversary last year. I've got aspirations to go to Greece, Peru. I mean, you name it. Like we love that stuff.
You're going to get there. No doubt.
Man.
All right. A couple others. If you had to point to one thing that you've either learned, developed, or were just born with that makes you successful, what would that be?
It's a deep question, man. One thing.
Here's the thing is that most people, like, we got more philosophical in this podcast.
Yep.
So you may have already, talked about it. One thing that makes you successful.
I think it's passion. And we talked about that just a little bit ago. I think it's having a chip on your shoulder. I mean, really having your why down and wanting to prove yourself. I think that's big.
Love it. Who's someone you want to meet?
I would say Ed Milet.
Beast.
Or Tony Robbins, maybe, Those two, or The Rock. Big into The Rock. Dwayne Johnson, dude, he's my guy.
He's a beast.
God, he's a freaking beast. In all aspects.
Everywhere.
Dude, just a monster.
Ed Milet's a freak, too. If you don't listen to his podcast, check him out.
He's got really, really good content. He interviews really, really amazing people. He's got a great book out there. I can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah.
Andy Frisella's podcast, the MFCEO, his first one, and then Real AF is his new one. I listened to almost every episode of that deal, and that really shifted my mindset too.
Yeah. Good stuff. You inspired me to listen to both of them, and I've taken a lot away. Ed Milet, too, like if you listen to him, the guy has like just this rumbling voice, and he's like able to articulate, like he's so precise with every single word he says. It's like, geez, how are you doing that, man?
I know. He's just so genuine too, though.
Yeah. They'd be cool to meet. So, okay, next one. Who or what are you currently focusing on, and how can the listeners help you?
One of my passions is speaking like this, honestly. And I love speaking in front of big groups. I'm speaking to the young professionals group next week. Public speaking, while most people hate it, I really enjoy it. I love doing stuff like this. And how can they help me? If you know of opportunities of people looking for speakers, I'm more than happy to participate and hopefully provide value. So that's really what I'm focused on right now is giving back, starting some charities, stuff like that want to hopefully make a difference as a collective group.
Good stuff. Listeners, help him out. Number 6, what do you think makes people successful? You might have already touched on this with all the other philosophical things we've talked about.
I guess just real quick, I think it's what we talked about already. And it's just wanting it more than anybody else, putting in the work and time and effort and realizing there's no shortcuts. Just grind with the right intentions and motivation and your why behind it. That's what makes people successful.
That is solid. So good. Okay. Fun question. If you had to rank these in order from your favorite to least favorite, how would you do it?
Okay.
pancakes, waffles, French toast.
Favorite to least favorite?
Yep.
I would go favorite as being French toast, and then waffles, and pancakes.
And why? The stunner question.
I don't know, dude. I just the first thing that came to my mind in my gut was French toast. And I remember making that as a kid and, whipping it up and putting the bread in there and doing the whole jig and putting a bunch of butter and syrup on there.
Oh, yeah.
Is awesome. And then waffles, who doesn't love a good waffle?
They're good.
Pancakes to me are just kind of vanilla,
Yeah.
My thought.
Love it. Every single answer is different. I've asked it 18 times now. Everyone answers it different.
I love it.
It's good stuff. Okay, folks. God dang, this has been an outstanding episode. We're going to close it out. So here's the deal. If you want to reach out to Cris, if you have questions, or if you, if there's something that he said that you'd like to talk about, his Instagram is choulihan1. So it's CHOULIHAN and the number 1. Check him out on Instagram. Otherwise, he's got a Gmail. You can email him at crishoulihan@gmail.com. And that's Cris without an H.
Yes, very unique there.
Very unique.
Everybody
Don't
messes
mix it up.
Everybody messes it up. It's okay. I won't hold it against you for very long.
I would just like to say that I did not mess it up when I was reaching out to him. Cris, CRIS Houlihan@gmail.com. And big shout out to this Wednesday, and that will be Wednesday, December 16th. YP, he is speaking for the YP Luncheon for the Dubuque Chamber of Commerce. Check it out. It's going to be a fire the entire time, just like this episode. Definitely link in if you can. And if you're not a member of the chamber, reach out to somebody who is. They can probably get you in somehow. Cris, thanks, dude. I really appreciate being on the episode. I hope that, this conversation and our, your time here has been valuable. And I know that myself and all the listeners are going to take tons of valuable nuggets away from this. So thank you a ton for being on.
Dude, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Value our friendship. And I know we're going to do so much more together. Keep this mastermind thing going. Hopefully this was valuable to all your listeners. Again, happy to help any way that I can. Again, just really appreciate you, brother. We're brothers from another mother. So
hell yeah, man. All right, with that, episode number 18 of Real Estate in the Tri-State is wrapping up. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in for another episode. If you liked the content, definitely hit the subscribe button and share the podcast. I appreciate you doing so. And with that, until next week.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Real Estate in the Tri-State. We want to encourage all of our listeners to send in any and all real estate questions to us at rottlerpodcast@gmail.com. More details in our show notes.
And as always, let's have a great day, folks.